What up, watch peeps? So Helson is one of the old school micro brands, as far as old school goes in the world of micros, but they gotta be at least what, 10 years old or so? They have some really great overbuilt tool watches, and I've experienced quite a few of them over the years. The build quality's always been fantastic, and the specs list is pretty much a who's who of everything you want. Now they make a lot of homages, but they also have some really cool original designs. One of which is the Shark Diver, which is pretty much just a straightforward dive watch, but really well done. And that's what I've got here today, so let's take a look. I'm Pete, and we are Chillin' with Watches. Alright, wrist check. I know what you're thinking. Two-tone and a champagne dial with a hoodie? Come on, Pete. Whatever, I'm gangsta like that. No, for real though, I just recently picked this up. I cannot believe I waited this long to get an Alpinist. These things wear like a dream. It is amazing. This is a strap code Jubilee that I got from Long Island Watch. But today we're looking at the Helson. So these things used to come in like these tubes, right? These big with styrofoam inside. This one's actually from Armada, which I believe is made in the same factory. But when I got this one, it just came in this kind of straightforward cardboard box, but it comes with the nicest leather watch roll I've ever gotten with any watch. This thing is awesome. It's really nice. It's like suede inside. It's insane. And it is a virtual utility belt of stuff that it came with. So, I mean, you get your warranty card like anything else. It also came with an ISO frame, which is nice. And here I have the watch. And here it came with, I believe, all stuff. And I don't think it comes standard with this. I think you got to order some of these extra bars. It uses like these little hex bolts for spring bars that screw in from both sides. The extra links. It came with two different clasps. One is like this on-the-fly micro adjust, but this thing is really rather big and bulky. And it even came with a second like kind of flip closure and scissor in case the other one wears out on the clasp that's on there now. And on top of that, you get your, this is actually like a hex tool that that you can use to tighten and loosen those bars that it uses in place of spring bars. But the watch itself is a really pretty watch, and I was really taken with this one right away when I first got it. So this is the 40 millimeter, and man, this particular model, this blue color is really pretty to me. The first thing I noticed was that shade of blue. I mean, eat your heart out, Tudor, right? I guarantee it didn't take them a year to come up with this color, but it just looks fantastic. The case is a basic 3 o'clock crown with guards, kind of reminiscent of Rolex Submariner, only in the most simple overall layout, the parts it has and where they are. The crown guards are very brutal. They're kind of like those you'd find on a Longines Hydro Conquest almost, but while they might look a little too inelegant for the Hydro Conquest, I think they really work with this watch. You'll see it has rather broad shoulder lugs like those on the Rolex 116 6-digit subs. And the perfectly fitting end links, they may play into that and exaggerate that wide shoulder look a bit. Looking at the case and profile, you can see how the tool watch look continues. There's no sweeping curves on this watch. Everything is kind of straightforward and square cut. I mean, the crown guards look like capable of a level of protection that would make any offensive line jealous. Look at those things. You'll also notice that in keeping with the theme, the entire case is brushed. It has a thick, chunky bezel, but the overall watch is still quite thin at 12.7 millimeters, and that's including the crystal. The bezel is crazy precise, and it feels insanely solid. It's very satisfying to use. This particular model features a lumed sapphire bezel insert, but I believe you can get them with both aluminum. The dial is a really nice matte finish. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. Which I really love a good matte dial, especially in blue. I think it just really works. And you'll notice it has a color matched date wheel, which just indicates like an attention to detail that you don't always see in microgram watches. The handset is awesome. It's kind of like some kind of a sword Ploprof hybrid with a ton of lume on them, just like the dial. It has 20mm lugs, and you'll see like it has this hexad bracelet, which I believe is in keeping with this kind of tool watch theme. There's no taper on this bracelet. And you know I do love a taper in my bracelets, but I think for somehow with this watch it kind of works. Hexad's probably a good choice here. You know, as I showed you earlier, it did come with 2 clasps. I do not have that on the fly adjust. I got the simple, basic, kind of just flip. There's no buttons, just all friction, compression kind of clasp. But it's very minimal, and I think if you're going to have a no taper, thick, chunky bracelet, you need to have a clasp that doesn't add to that. Overall, I think this is a really good looking watch that wears great at 40mm. So let's throw it on the Timegrapher and see how it's running. So it's keeping really good time with a nice clean trace. The amplitude's a little low. I wasn't wearing this watch, I just threw like 15 turns on it. I don't know if I get a full wind on it. Hopefully that would go up, and that's the cause of that. 0.6, maybe a little high on the beat error, but I don't know that that affects the performance at all. Other than that, I really don't have many complaints on how it's running. Going over the dimensions, this, like I said, is a 40mm case, 49mm lug to lug. I measured it at 12.7mm, including the crystal, which I don't think is perfectly flat. I think it has a very slight dome to it, and 20mm lugs. Going over some of the other specs, it has a 3mm thick sapphire crystal with inner AR coating. It features C3 Swiss Superluminova and a ton of it. It's running a Miyota 90-15 movement, and it has a whopping 500 meters of water resistance. And speaking of which, if we take a look at this crown assembly, it's a really robust crown. And if you take a close look, you can even see gaskets on the outside of the crown tube as well as on the inside on the stem. And here is how it wears on my 7¼ wrist. As you can see, really nice. I mean, 40mm is kind of a home run size. It fits almost anybody really well. It does have slightly slabby sides and sits on top of your wrist, but it's not too thick to where I find that uncomfortable. And the bracelet, having no taper as it is, provides plenty of weight to counterbalance the top of this watch. On the bracelet size for my 7¼ wrist, it came in at almost 177 grams, so it's quite a hefty watch. Let's take a look at it side by side some other watches. So first off, here it is alongside one of those. This is one of those basic sub cases made for the NH35. So pretty much a standard 6-digit Submariner style case. So you can see how that compares. Might be a little thicker than that. And that larger dial, even though it's a millimeter, I think these would come in at about 41. So even though this is about a millimeter smaller, it looks larger with the bigger dial. Here it is next to the CWC, which is also a 41mm, I believe. Again, the smaller dial, making it look a little smaller than the Helson. But all these are very comparable wears, I'd say. On the wrist, they all feel pretty similar. Lastly, the Seiko SKX, which probably has 2mm on the Helson. But same as the previous two watches, smaller dial, kind of giving it a smaller appearance. Thickness-wise, I'd say these two are pretty dang close. Finally, let's take a look at the Lume.
Peep the Lume.
It's literally shining on the table. Helson and Armada are some of the best, if not the best Lume in the game. I mean, this thing is just really super bright. You don't often see these sapphire bezels where the Lume comes through this bright. You can see it's slightly brighter on the hands and dial, but it's still very bright. It looks great. So that's it, guys. The Helson Shark Diver in 40 millimeters. Here's how it looks from a little further back. These are really dope watches. They make for a great, like, kind of everyday, carefree dive watch. You can do anything you want in these. You don't got to worry about beating them up. They'll be just fine. Let me know what you guys think about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. Before I let you go, sneaker check. Rare sighting of the white cement Jordan 4s. All right, that's it. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.